We're in this kind of rocket shooting off into some space that we don't even know. And so I'm kind of trying to find evidence of the rocket, you know, of the flames, you know, that we're extending in this kind of incredible growth. You know, pollution, you know, waste is our largest product. I think as a species, the largest thing that we produce is waste. We might think it's iPods, but no, it's what we do. When we throw them in the bins, that's what we're producing. So, you know, it's like pollution is a direct result of progress. And yes, it has negative connotations, but, you know, at this point, you know, it's very hard to not pollute when we engage in the techno-industrial society that we've created.
It is not the end of oil. There is enough oil. It is only all the time more expensive and difficult to get it out. But the stuff is there. Right, my children always ask, Daddy, Shell has only 10 years oil, and basically their idea was, Daddy may not have a job after 10 years. That's not how it works. There is for centuries probably oil, but the last oil is so expensive to get out that it is much better to use renewables.
You know, when you say oil fields, you know, these are terrible places, but, okay, let's stop them all. Let's see what happens. You know, it would be anarchy in the streets within 2 days. We don't want that. We don't want bricks going through plate glass windows and, you know, people being robbed on the streets and food being, you know, coming into short supply within a week and people starving on the streets. I don't think anybody wants that. But that would be what happens if you shut that down. For me, it's always been interesting to show this other side of our world, that we look at our built world, but there's a world of equivalent scale to a New York or to Dubai or a big city, London, but they're out in nature because all materials come from somewhere. And so I'm interested in that yin to the yang of our urban built worlds. I think that's at the core of what I'm trying to do. Is a kind of inversion of the classical notion of the sublime. So if you go back to 250 years ago in the Romantics, Caspar David Friedrich or Turner, it's man dwarfed against an awesome, dangerous force of nature. And we are diminished by the gale force winds of the sailing boat being swallowed by the storm. We created a whole other engine, a whole other force, a technological, industrial technological force. And to me, that is now the force to fear. That is, you know, so we have now sort of tamed the thing that we were afraid of before, but now it is us and what we've created that we're dwarfed within our own creation now. To organize with the company to be out there with a boom lift, we lifted me up around 65 feet. And then, you know, and then I establish my point of view and I establish my diptych and then I shoot it. You know, I usually do maybe a round of, like for this, I'd maybe, for the hour that the light is going down, I might, you know, shoot it 6 times during that hour, every 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then when I print them, I'll look at all the contacts and I'll say, this is where, and so when I get images that kind of have some kind of quality to them, it's really through the materiality and through optics and through all these other things that I'm trying to get to a point where, you know, you have this immersive experience with this landscape and it reveals itself to you.
Yeah.
So to me, it's really, you know, interesting to try and, you know, to me it's hard, what's hard is to find that subject. And so at the end of the day, the actual you know, getting the light right and the point of view right and all of that, I spend enormous amounts of time. But that's the fun part. That to me is the really interesting thing, is to try and take that thing that I went back to this 3 times, and I was shooting it from the ground, and I'd get up a little bit, and I said, no, this picture doesn't work from ground. I got to get up.
Yes.
Yeah. And then eventually, eureka! This shot's up at 60 feet. And then I started saying, okay, how do I get there? But I wouldn't get there if I didn't spend 2 weeks going, what do I do?
Sure. And you make it with a technical camera?
I have a Master Technica, and for a lot of my aerial work here, I'm also using a digital camera now with a gyro on it and a Hasselblad. So I found that digital from a helicopter is far more successful than analog film. To be able to begin to define, to move from a specific idea, let's say I want to photograph mines or I want to photograph quarries. Well, how do I define which mine, which quarry? And to go from the general idea to the specific, I use the biggest, as my defining rod as to where am I going to go. So whenever I'm researching like iron ore mines, my first question is, to a researcher, what are the 5 biggest iron ore mines on the planet? If I'm interested in, quarries, what are the 5 largest marble quarries on the planet? What are the 5 largest open copper pit mines on the planet? And then if the first one doesn't let me in, I go to the next one. And if he doesn't let me in, I go to the next one. So in a way, it's my organizing principle. And then there's a tension when you get in there because you're not supposed to be enjoying this. This isn't supposed to be a pleasant, thing to enjoy. That there's almost like a guilty pleasure when you're there. And to me, that's interesting in that I think in a way, it correlates fairly closely to the dilemma I think we all feel that when you buy your ticket to go on a vacation, you recognize and you're hearing that this is bad, that CO2 from flights and your CO2 footprint is bad. I come here, because I'm opening a show from Canada, and I'm not making these images from the kind of Sebastian Salgado human interest story, like trying to tell celebrate the worker or somehow use the images as examples of the transgression of human rights, and there are photographers who do that, and to me that's a kind of a photojournalistic approach and concerned photographer approach, and to me the work is coming from a whole other place, and to me it's I think it comes from being Canadian and really understanding what untouched, unspoiled nature is, and that kind of more geological time that you look at this kind of world that's never been touched by man and you begin to see what the wonder of the planet is. This is what the planet intended to be there without us. Of what this all means right now. But I do think that the decisions we're making right now are planetary. And no other generations had to face this. I think we're the first group of people on the planet that ever had to say, gosh, we can screw the whole thing up. Now what?